Sanaa Music Workshop. We'd like to shout out our sponsors. This year's camp is being presented 100% free, and we'd like to thank all of the sponsors and families who have helped make this possible. So thank you to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, the Emerging Philanthropists of New Orleans, 40 Schools in partnership with Vela, the Bornstein family, the Anderson family, and the Carrara family. And we'd like to welcome the great Miss Emily Fredrickson, an amazing arranger, amazing band leader, and she's going to be hosting our class on avoiding artistic burnout.
Great, thanks, Greg. Good morning, everybody. How did the setting intentions and goals for um, processing emotion? How did all that go? Did you guys come up with a daily plan and then a big plan for when things get really stressful? Maybe some of us. I tell you to do this now because it really does help when things are actually, challenging and difficult. The last thing you're going to think about is what can I do to relax right now. So if you take time to do it when you're not in the middle, I mean you're doing a lot in camp, so that maybe you are already doing something that's stressful, so this might be a good time to practice. So I think it's really important that you guys do take a little bit of time to figure out how can I start doing some of these things on a daily basis, and then what is my action plan for when I feel really overwhelmed and exhausted, because making that plan now will definitely help you avoid it in the future, and that's what we're trying to do, avoiding artistic burnout. All right, so today we're going to talk about two things. One is going to be goal setting, and the other one is going to be something that I call an idea well. um, I know after we talked about avoiding stress, probably the last thing you want to do is set goals for the rest of your life, because some people think goals are very stressful. But what I'm going to help you guys do is sort of reframe why we set goals. Um, I think that it's kind of assumed that goals are set to force you to be productive or to make you feel bad for when you're not being productive. And that's not a great mindset to have a good relationship with your goals. The thing that I've learned over time is that the reason that I set goals now is so that I can count my wins. So if I'm just progressing and I think everything's going well, but I still haven't met that really big goal, a lot of times I look at everything that I want to achieve and I feel like I haven't done anything. But then I think back to like 10 years ago, I would have never thought that I'd be doing all the cool things that I'm doing now, but maybe that's because I haven't really kept track of all the good things that I've done along the way. So, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how to break down really big goals into smaller bite sized goals that you can do on a daily basis so that you can keep track of that and feel like you're winning, because that's the most important part about it. Is not so much that you want a looming goal over your head to stress you out, but that you have really small ones that'll get you to a big goal gradually, because that feeling of winning is very important to maintaining your career as an artist. So before I start, has anybody ever had you do, or have you just done of your own accord, 5-year goals?
Yeah, I think you aren't you guys doing that with Bria?
Yeah, I
Aren't
was gonna say that Bree's making us do that.
Yay! I love Bria. That's so great. So I'll try and make sure that it's not repeating. But this is something that originally to me started as like I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. Like I have to write these crazy goals and achieve them like, like a mad person. I can't possibly do that. So then I got overwhelmed and really frustrated with it. And then I just wanted to throw it all out because it made me feel bad. But what I realized is that you can take really huge goals and break them down into something that you have to do. If it takes me 5 years, so what do I have to do 4 years from now to make the fifth year happen? 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, the next 6 months, next month, this week, right? So it really refines it down into the smallest process. So, what are some goals that you guys have for your career? I think you can also do this with personal goals too, but since we're talking about becoming professional artists, what are some of your career goals? Anybody? Go ahead, Brandon.
Mine's may seem pretty small, but one of my biggest goals is literally just to find some way to perform or have a career opportunity to go to Japan.
Oh, that's not small. That's amazing. Okay, good. That's a good one. Let's hear some more.
Jordan, what you got?
It's a tough question for me because I have so many things that I want to do in life. Uh, I say one thing for my career goal is to sell out an arena.
Okay. Amazing. I love that. Okay, great. Let's hear two more. What about from Cam? Hey, Cam, you there?
Cameron, Mr.
Yeah,
Clark.
yeah. Um, I think a professional goal of mine would be to kind of be similar to what Brandon was saying, like travel to Brazil, just because I really like Brazilian music.
Cool.
And just the culture there. It reminds me a lot of New Orleans. But outside of that, to just kind of be like prolific in many different areas of music, like audio production, like performance and teaching, just to be able to be like a jack of all trades in like the music industry, period. Rather than just being like, I do one specific thing well and I'm just kind of trash at everything else. I'd rather kind of be good at a bunch of stuff and then also kind of have like a mastery over my instrument as well. So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, great. That's beautiful. Okay, so that's that second one that you said had two words in it that I want to talk about. You said prolific and mastery. Those are great words for one, but they're words that everybody defines a little bit differently. So when we're trying to set goals, we want to try and avoid using words like that just purely because what's prolific to me is maybe different from what's prolific to you. And those are the types of things that kind of can set us up not to not achieve them, because you absolutely are, like I would say, already prolific in a lot of ways. But that we want to start using words that like help us measure things so that we can make sure that we're getting there, because our definition of prolific is going to change over time, which is absolutely not a problem, but helping us sort of understand like, okay, you know the types of things that you want to do that are prolific on your instrument, so trying to refine it to that. So like I want to be able to play this many tunes, or I want to be able to play this piece of repertoire or this type of thing, or have those types of things measurably defined. So when we're setting goals, and I'm sure this is something that Bria will talk about with you guys too, setting goals that are considered SMART goals, so specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable, and time bound. So those are the types of things that we're going to try and work in. But here's the good thing. You guys already gave me a few good ones. Sell out an arena and travel to another country. I'm just going to throw this one on here too, because I feel like none of us would be upset if we won Grammys, right? So maybe winning a Grammy, that would be cool. Or if it's not your vibe, it's cool too. Okay, cool. So let's start with one of these traveling ones. Okay, so if you want to go to Japan in the next 5 years, what does that look like starting 4 years from now? So it seems like you probably have to have your travel and stuff lined up 4 years out, right? So that's already okay. 4 years from now, gotta have my travel plans laid out, and probably figuring out where I'm gonna play when I'm there. Okay, so that means I gotta start contacting some people who've been to Japan. Okay, there's another thing that I can do. Contact people who have been to Japan. Cool. All right. And then when I talk to them, talk about where they played. Okay, good. Now I have some contacts at the clubs. All right. And then from there, what is the music that I'm gonna play? Well, I have 5 years to figure that out. But if I want it to sound really killing, I should probably start working on it now so that I can have an album to sell while I'm out there, right? Okay, album. Whew, this is becoming a lot. It starts to get a little overwhelming when you start breaking it down. But as we get smaller and smaller, what you realize is like 5 years from now, it starts tomorrow. And it starts with the smallest thing, just the smallest thing. So if we're talking about okay, who am I going to tour with? Am I going to tour under my own name or am I going to tour with somebody? Okay. Make some decisions around that. If I'm going to tour under my own name, what band am I going to tour with? Who's my dream band to take to Japan with me? Maybe I should start contacting them to see what they're interested in. And if I don't play with them, maybe just try and play some gigs, see if it works out. Or if I'm going with someone else who has a regular touring schedule in Japan, and how can I be in their band? I need to start going to their gigs or sitting in with the people who play with them, right? So all this stuff is unraveling pretty quickly once we start like breaking it down. So now it's like, cool, I know what I have to do immediately. I have to either write music for what I want to tour. Okay, I have to work with the people that I want to travel with, or I have to go, sit in with the people that I want to play with, learn that artist's music. Absolutely, Darian. So it kind of makes your goals for 5 years from now pretty immediate, but also not unachievable, right? All these things are totally things that, especially now that we can actually go sit in with people, especially now that things are back mostly open, all of these things you could probably start doing them tomorrow, right? So Japan actually starts tomorrow, right? And that kind of feels exciting, right? I think it feels exciting and not so overwhelming, because right now I have little steps. Who I need to figure out who goes to Japan, who would I like to travel with, where did they go? Do I travel under my own name? Do I go with somebody else? Okay, cool. So a lot of these things are extremely achievable, right?
Hey,
So,
Emily, I
yeah,
have
go
I
ahead.
have an insight on
Yeah.
that too. All of that is absolutely right, guys. I was just thinking, like, sometimes when you're thinking about long-term goals, and you can attest to this too, Emily, like I think you have a little bit, is it's kind of hard to like visualize it. So sometimes it works to think about something that you've already achieved that took you 2 years, 6 months, 3, 4, 5 years. So maybe these guys can tell us something that they've already accomplished that was a long-term goal. It could be anything: graduating high school, or taking uh Susie to the prom, or taking Bob to the prom. I don't know, anything.
Yeah, let me hear about some of your wins. What are you proud of?
Valerie?
I'm proud of a lot of things. Musically, I feel like I still have a lot to grow in, and that's definitely part of my 5-year plan. Um, I'm proud of living in New Orleans and working as a creative professional like I am right now. Coming from my country, it's been like different, getting adapted to the culture, and that's an achievement for me.
That's beautiful. And I'm sure 5 years ago, maybe, I don't know how long you've been doing all of that, but 5 years ago, 10 years ago, some of these things didn't even seem possible. But you're doing it, and that's amazing. So yeah, seeing how all of the steps kind of have unfolded so far in your life, be proud of the things that you've done. That's definitely a great first step, because you're going to need that fuel to keep you going as you try and achieve some of these other goals. Does anybody else, now that we've kind of broken down some goals, does anybody else want to mention a goal that we can maybe break down together? Especially people who are in Bria's class, who are working on their 5-year goals.
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Valerie.
I want to work weekly gigs as a professional singer.
Beautiful. Okay. That's exactly what we're talking about. So that's measurable, and it's something extremely reasonable. Okay, great. Let's start with that, because that's definitely something that I think a lot of us would be interested in doing. Weekly gigs as a singer. Okay, great. So where should we start with that? Do you want to work in New Orleans?
For a while, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we're time bound, and we have a place. Beautiful. So what do you guys think would be one of the next steps?
Dominique, what do you think?
Some of us might want to go to college, to music school. Be the next step for some of us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And honestly, you can start working, especially in a place like New Orleans, while you're in college too. So that will definitely further your ability to have more information related to playing. But if we're talking about playing weekly gigs in New Orleans, um, maybe the next step is figuring out what place already has weekly bookings. That'd probably be a good start, weekly bookings. And then from there, that maybe is looking like going to sit in at one of those places, or seeing if you know somebody who has one of those weekly gigs and what their experience is. Because weekly gigs is one thing, but having quality weekly gigs is another important part of it. So talking to people who have those gigs and how they like it, and then maybe going in to sit in would be a great next step from there.
What would you guys define as quality? Like what does quality mean to you? A quality work environment. Or no, you go ahead, Cam.
I would say just continued consistency, I guess.
What does that mean?
Like whatever I'm doing, like it's consistently like good. You know what I mean? Like there's never like a moment where I'm like, all right, this is why am I doing this? Like that kind of screams quality to me. Like kind of like a car, right? Like a good quality car would be one that starts up every time, like not one that starts up like, 2 out of 10 times that you started up, like consistently starting up, like that would be like quality, I guess.
Okay, but we're talking about the work environment. Not, I think what you're talking about is the product that you're producing.
Mm-hmm.
So like what would be a quality work environment? Let's see. How about who haven't we heard from? Oh, Anthony.
Yes, the quality work environment would be with, well, I guess an optimistic one would be one that you get, one where you're with a bunch of people that you get along with, even though a lot of times that maybe doesn't happen, but that would be like a ideal.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think both Cam's answer was good. Yours is good too. What about the money? How much money y'all gotta make? How much money you need, Emily, to feel good? How much money? Like, we never talk about that. And I think that's detrimental. Like, how much money do y'all need to feel good as artists?
Yeah, I don't hesitate to discuss pay and things like that, because it doesn't do anybody good to keep that information from each other. I think in the future, if there's any sort of weirdness around that, that is a red flag. Just laying it out there. But also, you've put a lot of time into your craft. You're a specialist. This is not a I'm getting paid X amount of dollars per hour. So the moment somebody starts saying, this is your hourly wage, it's pretty high, $50 an hour, man, that's pretty high. No, you are a specialist. This gig is not just you showing up, putting in time, punching out, right? You put a lot of work into your craft so far. So next time somebody tries to make you think it's an hourly wage situation, big red flag. To me, a quality gig, has consistent and what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent pay. There's no questions. We're talking about reasonable expectations on the gig. So not 3 hours with no break. We're talking about a captive audience. And then, definitely people that you like to work with, especially if you're the one forming the band. Like Valerie, if as a singer, you want to feel supported. You want to feel like this gig isn't you pulling it out of your band, because you're pulling a lot out of yourself too. So making sure that the people you're working with, absolutely. So these are all things that you can check into, and know that just because a weekly gig comes up doesn't mean it's the answer to all of your prayers. But at the same time, it'll be a good learning experience to figure out, like, what elements am I willing to compromise on, and what can I absolutely not, to keep my quality and to keep my mental clarity, you know, and to have my vision come to life. And ultimately, as these things, especially like weekly gigs, start building up, this is where you want to have some of these systems in place to help make sure that you're sustaining yourself and not completely depleting yourself every time you have an opportunity to perform just because it's an opportunity. But I think weekly gigs is definitely something we all strive for. So it seems a little elusive, but I think, again, with these goals, you know, going in to talk to people, figuring out if it's a quality gig, and then just being present. I think that's one thing that is a big learning curve for me, is just making contact with people in more than one way. So I think as many times as you can, make sure that your relationship with somebody you want to work with is not just related to one scenario. So say you play with somebody you love to work with in one band, how can you have another regular point of contact with that person? Is that, you know, like one thing that I started, well, not started, but a group of people that I really want to work with have similar interests. So we actually started a book club. So because we started reading some of the same books and talking about other things, we started talking about other opportunities to work together. So it might seem a little bit unconventional, but what it does is you puts you in the front of their mind. So they go do some sort of non-music related hobby with them. Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to help people remember that you're around, that you're a great person, that on and off the stage, you know, those are great things to try and make a part of your regular goals, and totally achievable. These are not like, I need to win a Grammy tomorrow for this album that I have no idea what I'm going to write about, you know. It's all extremely digestible once you just break it down. So I think that's the goal. Having these really lofty goals is beautiful. My goals are, to some I think would say, absurd. But because I have my relationship with them where I can break them down into little things that I absolutely do every day, they don't seem so absurd anymore. And it doesn't seem like I'm just getting by, because these goals are impossible, you know? I know now that all of them are extremely achievable as long as I just keep being tenacious about the daily things, not necessarily just hoping that it all eventually works out.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful, y'all. I hope y'all are taking some notes. The one thing I think that we as artists have to do um, is put a number. Like know your price, and you guys are young, so like know your price now. Somebody in the chat wrote, "My price is $75." Cool. You know, your price is $75 an hour, but you also got to know, how do I come to that price? Like, how much does my rent cost? How much does it cost for my poodle to get shampooed every week? You know, Cameron, he likes to wear Jordans. You know, shoot, those joints is expensive. You gotta really add up the cost of your life, and the gig doesn't start at the gig. The gig starts when you start rehearsing the music. So all those hours, you got to account for all of that. So really know your price and set it high. If you know, it's you're an entrepreneur, like set your price high and let that be one of your goals. Even if it's like, okay, I'm going to start at 75, but like by year 5, Valerie's like, I don't want to be getting paid $75 a week per gig. I want to get paid $500 per gig. I want to get paid 1,000. Some people get paid $1 million per gig. Why are we happy with $75 for making somebody else's dream? Think about it. If I hire you for a gig and I pay you $75, the gig pays $10,000, right? So, I mean, I'm making all the money, my G. But you set your own price as a musician. Hey, Mason, can you make a gig for $75? Now he said no. What about right, Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. Pef, you have a question?
I just wanted to say I was the one that said $75 in the chat. But I think for me, it's about like, I believe you need to know your worth. But I think realistically, the kind of gigs that that were coming into my lap right in college were like, oh, $75 to play Gasa, $75 to play that place that changes owners like every 3 months at the end of Frenchman Street, 70, you know what I mean? And and you got to take them because, you know, you want the experience. But, you know, once you start to know that you can do it and know your worth and know what you're able to do, and other people start to see that, I think you can start charging more. But I think, I don't know, I think it's about just knowing, just being able to, you know, prove to your peers. It's not about proving to the venue, you know, the venue you can show, but, you know,
Yeah,
I think that's just my perspective on it.
for sure. And I think some of those gigs early on, yeah, they are not fun, but once you start playing professionally, you're joining the community as a whole. And what we owe to our community is equally important as what we owe. I mean, not that's complicated. I really think that we have to be good community members, and by setting the standard and like accepting the standard so low that we're willing to play those gigs that we know like this isn't going to be sustainable. Well, as soon as you say no, they're going to try and find somebody who will say yes to it. So it's definitely a process. Talk to people. And this is, again, like, it is so important to share this information with each other, because I think it's absolutely what we owe to each other as a community, to be clear about what we expect. And yeah, exactly what Darian's saying, like, is the moment, like the moment we say no because of the price, it seems like it feels bad, because how are you turning down work? Oh my gosh, like it feels lazy, right? But ultimately what we're doing is we're investing in our worth long term. And it's very tricky, but again, I think these are just and this past year has been super good about that, especially in the New Orleans community, about talking very openly about how much people are getting paid, and ultimately finding out it's absurdly low and it can't be that way anymore. And the community is banding together in ways that I've not really seen it in the 8 years that I've been here. It's really beautiful, and it's making it a lot better for everybody. So just know that it can get better, but share what's going on with people around you, because a lot of people have good advice and will be willing to work with you too, especially knowing that you're straightforward and honest about everything.
Emily, just one
yeah.
question for you as a
Yeah.
woman, I know I don't want to take up this whole
No,
thing on
you're
this
good.
topic, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
As a woman, have you come across, because we do have two young ladies in this room, and
Yeah.
I want the men to be aware of this, that sometimes women don't get offered the same rate.
Whew.
And so that I think that's why transparency is important.
Yeah.
And it's important that we talk to each other, because if Pef is on a gig and Valerie's on a gig and Pef is getting, $1,000 and Valerie's getting 500, then wait a minute. What happened there, and has that kind of thing happened to you? And if so, then how do you deal with that?
Whew, it definitely has happened to me. It's so complicated to try and discuss that with people, because especially when you're young, I always had the mindset, I'm just paying dues. I just need to keep my mouth shut, keep my head down. I did that for a little too long, and it did hurt pretty bad when I found out that I was kind of being taken advantage of in a way. When I've had it happen to me, and I've had it happen to me in a lot of different scenarios. What I have done, and this is just what works best for me, because I have a hard time putting the emotions that I felt like betrayed, but I had to, like, if I wanted to move forward with it, I was like, if they don't understand the fact that I feel this way, what I can show them is on paper how this is not okay. So I've had to break down a lot of things, like, ultimately, this is the amount of work that I'm doing. This is the work that you have valued it for somebody else. And this is how you compare. This is how I compare to it. And you are valuing me lower for the same amount of work. And I can show this. And that made me feel a little bit better, ultimately, because I was like, I can prove that this is wrong. It's not just me feeling some type of way, like, this is incorrect on paper. I'm getting paid way less to do the same or more work. And I broke it down and just had a frank conversation. And those conversations are so hard. It took me a year in one of the jobs that I had to speak up and be like, I don't think this is right. And then I found out it wasn't right. And I wish I would have spoke up sooner, But I think just breaking it down logically for yourself and for the people you're working with, if they're not willing to see like flat out that this is not something that's acceptable, not a type of person you want to be working with. You need somebody who can be first and foremost transparent with you, but also just like understanding and logical. This isn't about like, oh well, he's been my friend for such and such amount of time and blah 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 blah. Like, nah, this is work. Ultimately I'm doing the same amount of work for a different price, and that's not fair. But again, transparency about earnings, it's important in every scenario. I'm just going to keep saying that because it's happened to me more times than I'd like to talk about. But yeah, it does happen. Absolutely.
Hey,
And I
Emily,
appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah.
just really quick. Sorry, I feel like now I just want to jump in the conversation. I'm trying to let you do your thing, but when it comes to getting paid on the bandstand, y'all, like, let's say you have a quartet. I promise you, like the drummer, and a lot of times you're going to find yourself in a situation where not everyone is getting paid the same. And maybe, Wynton Marsalis is getting paid different than the drummer and then the other cat's getting paid. So, it's really important that you advocate for yourself in terms of like always saying like, hey, like when I find out that the drummer is getting paid $500 for the gig and I'm making $50, you have to be happy knowing that you negotiated that $50 for yourself. And don't be pissed when you find out that, the drummer's making $500, you're making 50, the bass player is making 250. And you're going to run into that situation a lot in your life. That happened to me once. I was on a bandstand getting paid $50 a gig, finding out the cat next to me was getting paid $300 a gig. And I was like, damn near was going to kill everyone, So that was an important lesson for me, because it's, again, like you have to advocate for yourself and know that when you agree to something that you're doing what's best for you.
Absolutely. I think that one of the most valuable things that I've done in the past few years is that I have a rate sheet that I use, and it's a little more definable because I'm an arranger and a composer, but I have a rate sheet that I just drop into anybody's inbox the moment they're like, hey, let's do some things. In terms of arranging, I don't necessarily have that for everything, all aspects of my career, but arranging and composing, I just immediately send them a rate sheet. Yeah, I can definitely explain that. I should just send it to you guys. I'll send it to you guys. Why not? I don't mind. So basically what it is like this type of arrangement for this many horns is this much. If I'm doing a transcription, then it's this much. If it's deemed like an extremely complicated transcription, it's like a conversation that we'll have beforehand. If it is just horn parts that I'm transcribing off a record, it's this much. If it's horn parts that I'm writing, it's this much. If it's horn parts that I'm writing and recording, then it's this much. So I break it all down, just like, here are a lot of possibilities. Let's talk. Obviously, I want to know what your budget is too. So if it's a project that I really want to work on because I can see the merit in it, and I know that it's not going to be the greatest budget, like, let's have a conversation. But this is where I'm starting at, like we're not going from like oh, well, I recently had this happen. Oh, everybody else on the record is doing it for free. Great. Not me. That's not how it works here. Here's my rate sheet. Give me a call, and ultimately it worked out well because I advocated for myself and I had something that was preset. It doesn't make me feel bad, like sending that to people being like, hey, this is where I'm at. I didn't just make this up off the top of my head. It's what I send to everybody. And that's absolutely, that's the starting conversation for me. And it's saved me a lot of headache, because I think I've had friends come to me in the past and they've been like, oh man, I'm kind of in the middle of this situation, and like now we're talking about rates and it's like way less than what I wanted. Ooh, that's a hard place to be in. I try and make sure that these conversations are as frank and honest up front as possible, because it's going to save you a lot of headache in the future for sure. I will send you guys my rate sheet. I have my arranging one. It doesn't hurt me at all because keeps me in mind. But also, like, I don't mind sharing my rates because transparency is super important. It's probably on my website too, but yeah, I'll get it to you guys in an email. Okay, the last little part of this is a really fun exercise. I don't know how much time we're going to have to do it, but it is something that I absolutely love. And I am putting up a YouTube video about it soon that goes into way more detail. So I can have Darian and Greg send that to you when I'm done with it. But this is something that I've used quite a bit in the last few years. It's called, well, what I call the ideal well. It's all this technique from a marketing book called A Technique for Producing Ideas. And man, this has totally changed my creative flow, and it makes it, I know that you guys have probably heard of, like, when you think of burnout, sometimes people think of like, I just don't have any ideas. Like, I have nothing left to give. I can't think of a song to write. I don't know what to play. Like, I'm out, you know, like creatively tapped. So this is the other part of the avoiding artistic burnout when it comes to just like, I've burnt out of all of my ideas. So the concepts in the book, and again, this book is like something you can read in like 45 minutes. It's really, really short. It's called A Technique for Producing Ideas, James Webb Young. It's in the Google Drive, the link to it. It's like $1.50. Just get it and read it. It's kind of mind-blowing. But the idea is that it shows that creativity is actually a highly logical process. It is not just sitting around and waiting for inspiration. So I know that seems a little bit strange because we kind of like the mysticism of what it means to be an artist and to be creative, right? But when you actually break it down, what it is as creativity is, it's a highly logical process that is like taking familiar things and seeing them in a new way. So with that in mind, the book explains it more in detail, and this is going to seem a little haphazard, but if you have your note cards, that's where we're going to work from now. If you don't have your note cards, just make three columns on a paper. So the idea is, yeah, the book, absolutely. The idea is that, oh, I just sent it directly to Darian, but yeah, anyway, Zoom. Okay, the idea is that you take things that are very familiar with what you do in your life. So how do I explain this? You take the fundamental things about what you do, and then you combine them with the things that make you unique. So what that looks like is one column, we're going to write how I come up with different ways to compose music, right? So one column, we're going to label genres, or one stack of cards is going to be called genres. The next stack is going to be called ensembles. And then the one after that is going to be called me, or like unique, or inspiration. That's what we can call it. So what this looks like for me is I have these columns, like, I can't exactly show you, but I have these note cards on my wall in my office. So one column being genres of music that I write in, one column being different ensembles that I write for, or that I want to write for, and then the last column being things that make me unique, things that inspire me, things that I wouldn't mind writing music about, right? Okay, so we're gonna make these together. What are some genres? I just need people to type them, or you shout them out as quickly as possible. Obviously, we have, is everybody there? We good? Jazz, R&B, great. Okay, there's two. There we go, bam, important. Okay. What are some other genres? Classical, yeah. Yeah. Neo soul. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. Okay, there's some good ones. Yeah, calypso. Hell yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Indie rock. Yes. Bossa. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's close. Metal. All right. Metal made it. Emo. Oh, all right. Good. There we go. Okay. So if everybody is doing this, you should be taking these down. You should definitely be taking these down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, great. Now, what are some ensembles that you guys want to write for? Get creative. Quartet, yeah. What about big band? And orchestra, yes. Quartet with strings, beautiful. Trio, piano trio. Cool. Chamber ensemble, yeah. Good. A cappella, awesome. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I feel like we have a few more in us. Let's think. Well, what about like woodwind quintet? Why not? And maybe what about I mean, we could add brass quintet to there. Noka's ensemble. Yes, let's do it. I don't know what the instrumentation is, but I want to write for it. All right, cool. That's good. That's definitely a good start. DJ and MC with the sax. Okay, I mean, yes, why not? That's definitely a thing that exists. Great. So this last part's going to be a little bit more personal, but it ultimately is going to, this last column is inspiration. It's going to be, yeah, give him a break between classes. Okay, got it. Okay, so the last part is going to be totally personal stuff. So I'm just going to write it as me, right? So I'm going to write, I like mountains a lot. I like my cat. I like the smell of jasmine. I like these amazing pastries that I had in Seattle. Right? So it's getting weird, right? It's just going to be totally random. I like the color pink a lot. I am trying to find that specific spot in Tennessee that I love to visit. Sunsets. This is becoming like a dating profile. Not what I meant, but the idea is that you just write things that are really personally inspiring to you, right? So these are all going to look different. What are some things for you guys that maybe you have personally inspired?
What you got, Donald? You look like you got something good.
Food. Love food.
Yeah.
What kind, man?
And all kinds of food. My mom's from Venezuela, so get that Hispanic food.
Beautiful. Yes. Cultural things. That's super important to add to these types of things. So the idea, and I'm going to sum it up as quickly as I can. The idea is that you take these and you combine them completely randomly. So like, do not put any logic behind this. Swimming. Yeah, absolutely. Swimming. Yoga was on mine too. So like lots of those things. Absolutely. So you combine these things completely random. So what I do is I put these cards up on my wall and then I just literally point. I'm just like, okay, these random things. So then I have something that looks like a classical woodwind quintet about my favorite food in Seattle. Okay. Why not? That could be a thing. All right. A calypso big band tune about the smell of jasmine. Woo! Let's go. Come on. Oh, all right. A bounce woodwind quintet about the color pink. All right. That might need some workshopping. But the idea is there's so much here. And you want to write a lot more too. Like you want to get, I said at least 20 in each category, because then you have so much to pull from. And then you take them, I keep them in these little like things so I can take them with me. I take my cards and I put them in these things and then I literally sift through them randomly and put them together. And then the process from there, think about it, try and come up with something, leave it alone. Just walk away from it altogether, preferably go to sleep because that's when your brain does its best processing. And then come back to it daily. And then eventually this amazing idea is going to come from it. And when you do this regularly, you're going to have so many ideas saved up. That's why I call it the idea well. You're never going to be without an idea. And this is just one iteration of it, right? There's so many other ways that we can do this. And this is just about writing, playing, and all of the different types of things that you do. You can refine it to the types of things that you specifically work on. But man, there's so much here. And all we did was spend like 5 minutes working on it. So
beautiful job, Emily. Thank you so much. Y'all, this is Emily's last class.